All right, let's go to Colburn in a minute. I want to talk about China.
Yeah.
So I did a commentary. Everybody should watch on the last week of the new weekend show that Ann and I are doing for Jacobin on the sort of the left and China. And we're planning a lot more work in general, not only on China, but also Asia. I think it is, again, really important that in relative geopolitical terms, there is going to be a power reshift back east. And of course, China is the most important element of that. But this is also, I mean, this is a landmass that implicates, most of the world or a majority of the world. I mean, we're, obviously the Middle East, Central Asia. We're talking about, and obviously South Asia. So it isn't just China, but China is the rising power. We already live in this G2 world, and the conversation is just a total mess. And what we're going to start with is we're going to play. I did play these ads. I think at least one of them in the commentary I did for Jacobin. I recommend everybody go watch that and subscribe in general to the Jacobin channel. But let's talk first about basically, obviously there's a huge amount of xenophobia and warmongering, I would say, essentially on the border of warmongering coming at China from the right. Now, that oscillates with Trump, and I think there was a really good piece by Eli Clifton at the Quincy Institute, which basically kind of said, you have Steve Bannon, you have Tucker Carlson, and you have Trump's own, very well-honed xenophobic instincts. But then on the other hand, you also have Sheldon Adelson, who is a major Republican donor, who has deep relationships in Macau and in China, who does not want this type of conflict. This is not helpful for his casino business. So there's conflicting signals from Trump. And then Biden is playing into this, and we'll play this ad in a second. I think it is important for people to remember that obviously Trump is, it's different, and Bannon and so on. But the Obama pivot to Asia already was the signal from the Democratic elite that they wanted to reorient towards Asia. And TPP also, which we all rightly opposed because it's another anti-labor, corporate favoring trade agreement. That is a move to contain China in that part of the world. That is a geostrategic trade agreement. And in that sense, I would say there was some sort of differences to TPP. I mean, in the sense that obviously the other trade regimes had been to bring China into the WTO and so on. And, there was discourse of maybe China can come into TPP or whatever. However, the pivot to Asia, the TPP trade zone circling China but not including China, there's a geopolitics to that. Let's play these two. We have two ads, right, David?
Yeah. Which one?
All right. Which one first, Ben?
First, I think, right?
Which one?
I think we should do Trump first.
Yeah, let's do Trump and then Biden.
Okay.
Here you go.
This is a crisis.
This is no time for Donald Trump's record of hysterical xenophobia.
Biden's son inked a $1 billion deal with a subsidiary of the Bank of China.
China is going to eat our lunch? Come on, man. They're not bad folks.
Since the outbreak, the Communist Party has been mobilizing overseas organizations to buy local supplies and send them to China.
It is in our self-interest that China continue to prosper. What a beautiful history we wrote together. Banning all travel will not stop it.
The president is right. The travel restriction on China, as every public health official we've talked to said, bought the country time.
That was a very smart move right there.
Hysterical xenophobia. Dear mine. Xenophobia. I complimented him on dealing with China. I'm not going nuts.
And of course, they can always wheel out the trust, the fact that obviously he's declining. To be clear, and I don't know what's the documentation on this. I think the virus came to New York through Europe.
Mm-hmm.
I think California might have in fact come through an Asian source. I don't know. But obviously that's the primary dog whistle here. Now, here is Biden's response.
He failed to act. So now Trump and his allies are launching negative attacks against Joe Biden to hide the truth. Here are the facts. Joe Biden warned the nation in January that Trump had left us unprepared for a pandemic. Then, Biden told Trump he should insist on having American health experts on the ground in China.
I would be on the phone with China and making it clear, we are going to need to be in your country. You have to be open. You have to be clear. We have to know what's going on.
But Trump rolled over for the Chinese. He took their word for it.
The president tweeted, China has been working very hard to contain the coronavirus. The United States greatly appreciates their efforts and transparency.
China, I spoke with President Xi, and they're working very, very hard, and I think it's going to all work out fine.
Trump praised the Chinese 15 times in January and February as the coronavirus spread across the world.
It's a tough situation. I think they're doing a very good job.
Are you concerned about its potential impact on the global economy?
I think that China will do a very good job.
Trump never got a CDC team on the ground in China. And the travel ban he brags about? Trump let in 40,000 travelers from China into America after he signed it. Not exactly airtight. Look around. 22 million Americans are out of work, and we have more officially reported cases and deaths than any other country. Donald Trump left this country unprepared and unprotected for the worst public health and economic crisis in our lifetime. And now we're paying the price. All the negative ads in the world can't change the truth.
That is a great visual at the end of Trump looking like a child while she is talking. Again, I'm going to just be like balls and strikes on this stuff. So like the first part, the way they tied it, and the Trump ad, the way they tied it to Biden's senility is very smart. And the way those visuals of Trump looking like a bloated child while she talks, very, very effective advertising. So I want to get to the bigger dimensions of this, but Ben and everybody else out of the gate, let's talk about these ads. And, let's not, I think it's obvious what's problematic in some of it, but I don't want to kind of lean on that too much. I want to really try to think this out a little bit because, just sort of, okay, some of that's bad for sure, but let's try to think this out here, both politically and in terms of how we talk about probably the most important geopolitical story of our time.
Yeah, I mean, I think one thing that really hits me about it is how similar the ads are in some ways, right? Like, so the big theme of the Trump ad is Biden is too soft on China, and the big theme of the Biden ad is no, Trump is too soft on China. They both use the same kind of 1950s like Cold War fear mongering, where like the Trump ad talks about the Communist Party of China. While you have images of goods being shipped, I think, and the Biden ad has like shows like Chinese people marching in like slow motion with red flags and with creepy music. But I think that it's. I don't want to absolutely say that this isn't going to be, the Biden ad isn't going to be an effective response, because I don't think we know that. I think, as you said, there are some things that are smart about the way it's put together, but I don't know. I just keep on thinking about like John Kerry in 2004 trying to out-hawk George W. Bush on the war on terror. Mm-hmm. That it really feels like if Trump's big move is don't blame me for, telling people in late February that this was the flu, blame China, and Biden's big response isn't to question that deflection or try in some way to refocus things on what Trump did domestically, but it's just to accept the premise that it's all the fault of China, but like try to like adjudicate the details, right? Like, no, you're right, but like you're even more in bed with China than I am. On the face of it, I have to say my first reaction is that seems like a losing strategy. Is it
Thoughts, guys?
Yeah, I think it's total loser. I mean, it's the problem I have with the Biden ad is it's so defensive and it's reacting to Trump's assertions, but it conveniently, as he always does, overlooks the personal petty corruption angle that is in the thing. Just don't mention that, and people are going to notice that wasn't defended against, even though this whole fucking video is a response. And then you just instead go with the xenophobia, which of course that's Trump. He's going to fucking crush that shit. So like, just because you said Chinese instead of Chinese government, you think that's going to move the needle at all? I mean, I don't know. I'm not. I think it just. I see loser all over the Biden ad, and not just because of the word Chinese. I mean, it's just like this is where we're at now. Is you're playing catch up with Trump saying you're weak on China. Like, and
if you're really going to appeal to anti-China xenophobia, I mean, my instinct is that Trump is just going to be better at that.
Yeah. Right. I mean, it's I just say that I think Matt's hits on something that's very important to just for this campaign going forward, is that Biden's son's corruption scandals, they play with people in a way that the Trump stuff just hasn't seemed to stick. But I'll tell you, I mean, we all know what's problematic with those ads, but it's a worrying development. Just because you see there's so many people on the more like liberal Democrat voter side who just you get this feeling they feel left out of like the xenophobia and the saber rattling and stuff. So I think that, this Biden ad was a pretty clear indication that, that's the tendency that's going to be played to going forward. And I don't know.
I mean, the Biden campaign is going to be it's a center right suburb campaign. I mean, again, this also goes back to, being real. But I want to just say one thing about the ad, and then let's broaden it out to the left and China, which is the bigger long-term conversation. I think that that's true, a lot of what you're saying. And I think that I wish, frankly, that there were strategists around Biden that had the balls to just say, let's see if we can do a Trump, in the sense that we're going to go after the petty corruption, which explains all of it. And who gives a fuck what they say about us, right? Like, just do that. And then, frankly, and this is another reason very practically, while the same type, and I don't mean, again, I want to really distinguish here. As soon as you start saying the Chinese and that ridiculous clip of Biden saying we're going to be clear, which he really went after in the debate. I mean, this was clear. His last debate was Bernie. And the whole way the question was framed about punishing China. I mean, they're already deeply on board for this, including obviously the corporate press. But I want to say, if he made specific shots about Trump being subservient to Xi, it would be political malpractice not to do it. And again, I'm just never going to do there are some things here, and we'll get to bigger things, but just, kind of basic woke sort of whatever is just not going to do the job of analyzing it. So the problem is not some of that being in the ad. The problem is the blanket statement of the terminology. The problem is not going after the petty corruption. And then third, and I think this actually would play much more effectively to the sort of center-right voters that they clearly are building the race around, which is not that I'm another asshole who's going to run some crazy fear-mongering xenophobic campaign around a country that we're completely dependent on, but that I am willing to be tough and be clear and call out Trump's petty corruption and bullshit, but I'm also an adult who understands that we need to engage with diplomacy with our largest partner in the world. And there is a way, especially if the whole campaign you're running is simply about normalcy, of selling that instead of selling, I'm sort of doing the same thing.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, I just think that what that ad shows is that, the Biden team isn't going to think in that kind of strategic way, and they're going to try to outright wing Donald Trump, which is scary. One, because I don't think he's going to be able to beat him on that, and two, because it just sets the stage for, much worse conflict going forward.
You just watched a Michael Brooks show video. Subscribe to get them all. Why wouldn't you? Don't be foolish. Click subscribe below and become a patron as well. Patreon.com/TMBS. Thanks, everybody.